Greetings. Every once in a while, I'll look at the chart and contemplate the things that are happening during the week. And I kind of say, well, geez, there isn't much happening this week. This is not one of those weeks. Right off the bat, the very first thing that I notice is that Mars, the planet that rules Aries, which is currently the sign the sun is traveling through, so in focus, is going to be today dancing with Saturn. Mars is moving pretty fast, and Mars is a fast energy. It picture drive, an impulse to accomplish something, running right into Saturn, which generally stands for possibly a blockage or a restriction of some kind. Saturn's in Aquarius, though, and Aquarius is a little more fluid, or forgiving, perhaps, might be the more appropriate term for how Saturn functions while it's in Aquarius. One thing to keep in mind, that since we are in the Aries impulse zone currently, is that Mars in Aquarius likely feels an urge to invent something. Be creative, come up with an idea that even the sages would be happy with. Saturn, that it runs into, might say, oh, by the way, Mars, perhaps it might be beneficial to think through this impulsive idea that you have right now. Now, the question is Mars going to listen? Well, I think that's something that each of us is going to have to answer, because we each have a Mars somewhere in our makeup that is going to inspire the appropriate action or reaction to what this energy is asking us to contemplate. This Mars-Saturn conjunction at 22 degrees of Aquarius is almost exactly square to the nodal axis across the Taurus-Scorpio zone of the zodiac. It's an ascending square, or at the north bending. I'm just putting that out there. I won't try and define it too readily for you. Just keep in mind that a square to the nodal axis, which is essentially it's the destiny line in the astrology makeup. That's what the nodal axis stands for. Being square to this with that kind of energy that has the impulse and drive to do something, and being in Aquarius, it wants to be creating something new that perhaps hasn't been done before. Saturn says, am I going to allow this? It's a conjunction, which isn't necessarily one of those aspects that is easily engaged with. And the reason for that is because Saturn is life lessons. It's a lesson plan. It's the teacher. It's a function that says that If your inclination is to proceed with this kind of energy in the mix, I'm going to demand something of you. Is it a lesson plan? Could be. It's an Aquarius. What new and creative Aquarian type energies might be in the air? Impulsed by that Arian Mars drive. I think this is something that you're going to have to answer on your own as well, because we each are going to play this in the way that we need to play it. I'm an Aquarius. My Mars natally is in Aquarius. So this Mars in Aquarius, which is still close enough to be conjunct my natal Mars, drives more of that Aquarian energy just a little bit more dynamically. I have a lot of irons in the fire these days. Group meetings that happen throughout the week on Zoom. And each is unique, and each opens up very particular avenues of contemplation. I am inclined to ingest into any of these venues that Aquarian perspective. And, since we're also in that Arian zone, new moon having just happened this last weekend, there's a, how best to put this? There's a newness of energy that is asking me, it's actually asking all of us to make sure that the particular aim each of us has right now doesn't try to too impulsively strike out in a direction that hasn't been at least marginally thought about. Now, this is not necessarily the, what I would say, the easiest and most readily grasped onto Arian type impulse. Yet, that Mars, ruler of Aries, dancing with Saturn, is warning us to be cautious with the steps that we utilize going forward. There are substantial factors in the mix, and the rest of the week has no shortage of options for what the planetary story has for each of us to grasp. What are those conversational experiences that the planets are involved in that it would do us well to pay attention to? Well, we've done the first one. Mars on Monday, conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. Let's take a quick look at the chart here and see what the heck else is going on. Well, you can see from the chart here that Venus is sitting there quite close to changing signs into Pisces, where it is exalted. Still in Aquarius on Monday. And it won't be there for very long, because tomorrow, go ahead a day, we can see that Mars is at 29 degrees, 59 minutes at 8 o'clock in the morning here on the Pacific coast. So very early tomorrow, Venus is going to shift into Pisces. That's an energy shift. I think the energy shifts are critical to pay attention to, because it's like Venus has decided to shift or put on a new hat. It's been Venus is, that artistic expression of how we engage with others. What are the possible avenues of experience that when we're in the process of sharing space with somebody else, that this Venus thing in Aquarius has been playing with us for the past couple of weeks. It's saying that, are there possibilities of inventing something new in the way we engage with one another that could be more of an invitation to more people participating? Essential Aquarius. Venus shifting into Pisces. And it's exalted there. What kind of a hat is Venus going to put on as it steps into Pisces tomorrow? It's like, picture, if you will, laid out before you is a vast arena of opportunity that is not necessarily steeped in the materialist realm. Because Pisces operates in a wavelength that is stimulated by creative imagination. It's the dreamland. It's that zone of opportunity to take some chances that you might not ordinarily be inclined to do. Part of the reason for this seeming trepidation to strike out on utilizing that level of creative imagination is that we, as human beings here on the materialistic plane, have been trained, coddled, manipulated, steered very particularly toward the engagement with every aspect of this physical, material world, where our bodies, theoretically our minds, maybe our hearts, have been offered opportunity to investigate. Since this is Venus that we're talking about, this is not necessarily an investigation at solely a personal level. Even as I say that, just the depth and profundity of this Pisces zone it's not easily engaged with in the context of sharing space with others. Now, what could I mean by that? The options that the Piscean zone opens up for shared energy between you and someone else to investigate, to dream about, to contemplate at a deeper level. Generally are expressed through more, far more than just the materialistic options that life would seem to be putting on our plates. Someone who is steeped, basically has had minimal options presented to them beyond that physical world life experience. Are not readily going to bend over backwards to accommodate these kinds of deeper level considerations. Ironically, or as a matter of fact, someone who is too engrossed or engaged within the material realms likely will be reticent or show signs of trepidation as to where these kinds of deeper considerations might lead, and will there be enough latitude to not be swept off their feet away from their material side perspective. And because of this, quite often, when these kinds of conversations ensue, those too steeped in the material realm will often feel very specifically that there will be a cost to them to take a step with someone else along these lines. Often, the effect is, hey, enjoy the trip, buddy, but there are things that this physical world that I live in, I know would be challenged by what you're inviting me to consider. So, tra-la, have a good journey. I'm going back to the world. Let's throw another factor in for this week. The moon. Remember, I was just saying about feelings? The moon is how we feel. It's in Gemini. Is there the potential for feeling yourself into thoughts and conversations right now? Yeah. Well, let's just add a little bit of a twist into that equation. The moon will be out of bounds from the 5th to the 10th, which is basically from this Tuesday through Sunday. And when a planet is out of bounds, this is a dynamic that takes place as the planets move up and down in latitude, not the longitude around our Earth, but up above and below the ecliptic line. And when a planet goes a certain distance above or below the ecliptic line, which is, the parameters are set by the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, they're said to be out of bounds because those lines, the two tropics, are set by the angle of the Earth's orbit as it rotates around the sun. And the sun is what basically appears to move. It doesn't move. We move between the two tropics. When a planet moves beyond those tropic lines, they're no longer under the auspices of what the sun and Saturn, for that matter, because Saturn never goes out of bounds, neither does the sun. And the recent spring equinox that we experienced was the sun reaching to one of those lines, the tropic lines, and then turning around and starting to come back toward center. Actually, it's the Earth's tilt. But the moon being out of bounds, how we feel, what are our feelings? How does our intuition and sensing function is no longer, for this particular week, easily going to be inclined to want to pay attention to Saturn's rules or the sun's initiation process of, what its energy might be demanding. Aries, that's the sun, there's impulse there. And the moon is just kind of like, perhaps that Aries thing's just a little overrated. And, do I really need to move with that kind of impulsive energy right now? And Saturn, we already talked about Saturn. Saturn in Aquarius right now is just kind of like, well, first of all, Saturn in Aquarius has just a little bit more leeway into what the options might be for what is acceptable. And the moon being out of bounds this week says, if you want to feel it, don't hold back. If you sense something that's just a little bit more than what containment might seem to demand, go for it. Absolutely. And this plays quite easily into that shift of Venus into Pisces, that connection capacity that we have for others in the deepest, most profound level of the zodiac, Pisces, is being enhanced by that lunar out of bounds equation in Gemini, saying, ask questions that don't necessarily have ready answers. Investigate. These are the options that show up for you on Tuesday this week. And since the moon moves about 2.5 days per sign, for a couple of days here, that Gemini moon out of bounds might query some quite interesting possibilities for us to investigate. Okay, that was Tuesday. Wednesday, you can see that Venus is already clipping right along in Pisces. Wednesday finds Mercury, another one of our fast movers, delightfully skittling along through Aries, asking us, ruler of Gemini, got that moon out of bounds in Gemini. Mercury's given energy, some impulsiveness to the possibility of what kind of questions might spin up. Don't hold back. We got that creative, imaginary side, the Piscean side, that is being stirred up for, how we interact with other people in quite unique fashion as we investigate some of the deeper, more dynamic levels of what it means to be. Ooh, now there's a concept, being. To the person steeped in the everyday world, being can be maybe just challenging or a little more than challenging, partly because of the trajectory that has been accepted by the vast majority of people on the planet to, slog along, be a piece of the machine of production in the world. And this, it has some substantial limitations that not everybody willingly will find readily investigatable, partly due to the fact that the machine has set up a scenario that does not provide substantial amounts of free time that have not already been pre-designed to be filled with options to keep one focused on the material plane. Think about it. Radio, TV, so many options, so many things to see, so many distractions, all drawing us back to what does it mean to be in the physical form. Pisces is beyond the physical form. It's the metaphysical. Here the investigation takes a twist, a spin, appearing over the flat earth idea to what else might be there. And this is the energy that this week begins with asking us, are you ready to investigate options that you may not have thought of up to this time? Think on that. Wednesday is Mercury's day. Good old Miraculous. And what does it do? Because it moves along pretty quickly, during this day, it's going to form a sextile to this Saturn and Mars. And actually, it's going to form the sextile to Saturn on Wednesday. Mars will be on Thursday. Yeah. A sextile is an aspect that it's half of a trine. And what it means is that these are two planets that are in signs where the elemental nature, in this case, fire and air, actually are not that discomforted by each other. There's kind of like a sequence of shared perspective. My friend Kelly Lee Phipps gave me a lot of information, but I would read just initially a sextile is empowerment through synthesis. Well, I think that optimizing creative impulses. And I think that that kind of energy with both the Saturn and the Mars in Aquarius and what we've been discussing here about Pisces and the lunar out of bounds dance going on gives us opportunity to not hold back when things come across our bow that are not what we expected. And opportunity to look at them more specifically to see why are these things even present. Creative imagination, did it think it up? Did you dream it into it? Presence. Both of those answers could be very well a yes. Are you scared of it? Well, that's going to have to depend on, how steeped are you in the material realm? And do you recognize that there is way more to us than that simple physical being of who we are? Well, if you're on this wavelength, considering this with me, I know that you recognize there is a lot more always going on than simply just the physical. May as well bop ahead to Thursday, because that's when the sextile happens, actually between Saturn and Mars. I'm going to guess if I go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Thursday, Friday instead of Wednesday, Thursday. Moon is still out of bounds, but it's moved into Cancer. Cancer is the sign that the moon rules. It's our capacity to feel connected to a place, to our clan, to our ancestors. So might it be likely that as this moon dances through Cancer for the rest of this week, that avenues may open to ancestral awareness, where we can question our ancestral connections about things that have gotten us here to where we are from their perspective, which are not necessarily going to be the same as ours, but they have a bearing on why we are here that I think we should pay just a little bit more attention to than we are wont to generally. On this day, Friday, Jupiter moves into the same degree with Neptune. The actual aspect of exact conjunction will not be till next Tuesday. But hey, Jupiter is the ruler of Pisces. It's running strong. It's big. It's a powerful, powerful driving energy. And it's right now dancing with Neptune, the realm of creative imagination. That is Neptune. Neptune, when you consider the outer three planets, is in that middle zone that once things are shaken up by Uranus, Neptune's function is to pour the water of truth upon you while you're slightly off center to allow a flushing away of the things that are not so relevant that Uranus has shaken up and made you aware of in an attempt to awaken you. So this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction happening in Pisces gives us, if we're willing, the opportunity to dream big. Don't hold back, and pay attention. This is an excellent time to make sure that you have your dream journals available, because the messages that can potentially come through during this cycle are likely going to be giving you insight into things that you can manifest here and now in your living experience that are going to be so unique, because this aspect last happened in 1856. Doesn't happen very often. So is there the opportunity for an awakening to perspectives that don't come around that often? Absolutely. Might there be essential messages to filter down through the dream space? Remember, Venus came, that Venus, I'm bringing it up for a very particular reason, that we should, even though it may not be comfortable, attempt to share with others what comes through. And I say this very specifically because each of us, as a incarnate being, as a soul, has particular direction that our soul incarnated to grow. And because the option right now is to take that dream awareness that has come to us, share it with others to get some potential perspective on where that soul growth might be able to be enhanced in ways that the requirement of really being here with other souls in the growth process has brought us together to experience. This is very important stuff. One other energy shift that happens this week, what day are we on? Friday, is Mercury. Here it is, Sunday. 29 degrees is Mercury. 29 degrees, 2 minutes of Aries. If I go forward just a few more hours, Mercury whipping along at a high speed, it's going to shift out of Aries into Taurus. So the frenetic thinking processes, Mercury in Aries, impulsively driven, is when it shifts into Taurus at the end of this week and going on into the next week, that shift out of the dynamic and intense Aryan drive into Taurus is it's an opportunity to chill, to say, oh, I needed a break. I need a dessert. Truly Taurian thoughts. I need some comfort food. I need to kick back and relax from the amount of energy that has been being driven lately. Yeah, we're still in Aries. That sun is still there in Aries. It's not like we're entirely out of it, but Mercury, how we think, how we communicate, and how we format that process of our learning curiosity is going to be given a reprieve, because believe me, the energy this week, it's not mild. It's not, it's not something that we should naturally be able to just slough off and say, it was a lot of stuff. There's some profound moments that the energy this week and the planetary conversations involved are asking us very particularly to pay attention to. And it's not something to just take so friggin' lightly that we shine it on. I chose the particular image that's behind me because this actually, from my perspective, represents, this is different levels of humanity, different, filled with all kinds of soul awareness, coming together, splitting apart, taking a next step, spreading out, and the growth process of the souls of who we are, filling up the scenario of what we came to as souls develop while we are here incarnate in the earth plane. There's a lot more than just this earth plane, by the way. But while we are here, should we not take advantage of this and pay attention to the opportunities that we inspire with one another and within ourselves? And can we listen to the planetary conversation in such a way that we might recognize their part within us? They care a lot more than we give them credit for as to what transpires here in the galactic fold. Our celestial neighbors, they are neighbors. They're part and parcel of an equation that we are all included within. Thank you for another week's consideration. Do make sure this week that you include others and pay attention to what it is that we share. In other words, listening. Are we listening? Another week ahead. Enjoy the ride. And I trust that when this week is over, we are going to be very different beings than when we started.